Welcome to Digital Current, the new series on how technology impacts companies and the leadership in companies. So today I have Joel Tracy, the CIO of IMC Companies, based out of Memphis, Tennessee. Welcome, Joel.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So can you give us a brief introduction about the intermodal logistics industry and how the industry itself is growing now?
Well, the intermodal industry, I think first you have to think about two aspects. There's domestic intermodal, which is containerized freight that starts and ends its shipping life here in the United States. Then there's international shipping, which is the containerized freight that's coming into the United States via ships, and it gets maybe taken from a port to a train to a distribution center. So I like to think of it as really it's kind of two different sides of the intermodal industry. IMC Companies primarily is focused on the international side of that. Now, I think as a whole though, the intermodal industry as a whole, it's probably grew about 5%, 2017 over 2018.
Okay.
And certainly, all the talk of the tariffs and the trade wars with China certainly has made the industry, I guess, sort of nervous. It's not growing as much.
Okay.
But certainly 2019 could be another interesting year. I think it just depends.
That's great. So what do you see is the pain points in this industry in terms of, because it's been for a long time, it's a traditional industry, and how do you see the digital is helping this industries moving forward?
Well, I think first it's probably good for me to kind of explain to the audience that the intermodal industry is unique, part of transportation and logistics. In the parcel and LTL world, a carrier can drop those goods in a box on a pallet, and they're done with their piece of that service. But in the intermodal world, the motor carrier is also acting as a custodian on behalf of the equipment owners. So the container and the chassis or the wheels that container sits on is several $1,000s worth of equipment. And so that makes it unique, as a motor carrier is not just representing the shipper and the consignee, but also the equipment owner. And so that adds an extra level of complexity
And responsibility.
and responsibility to that service. And so technology becomes very key in minimizing, say, the storage costs, or the penalties for being late to pick up a shipment at a port, as an example. Ports and rail terminals have limited amount of space when a ship or a train comes in. They won't have so much space to pull that equipment off of their vessel or their train, and get it out of the way for the next vessel or train that's coming in. So motor carriers on average have around 48 hours to go get that equipment. And so it's very important for us to run our operation efficiency, monitor when that container is available for pickup, and try to get it in and out of there, or get it out of there within 48 hours. On the other side, on an empty, say on an import, you've taken the equipment to a distribution center and you've dropped it off. You only got so many days to get that equipment back to the place where you picked it up, or wherever the equipment owner tells you to take it. Otherwise, you could end up with penalties of keeping the container or the chassis longer than you were authorized. So again, running algorithms to make sure you're running your fleet efficiently, and also giving your customers multiple avenues electronically to be able to notify you of empty, or in the case of an export, when their shipment is loaded, ready to go, you have to make it to the vessel or the train before the cutoff time to be able to make that time slot. So you have appointments, electronic appointments. It can be pretty daunting if you were trying to do that all manually. Yeah, so using applications and technology to make that all work is very, very critical to the viability of any transportation and logistics company.
Great, thank you. I think as a technology leader in this space, what are your thoughts on the disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence, robotics, like cloud and like 5G is coming? How would that impact or help your companies and somebody like you? What are the strategies you're thinking that how I can bring this kind of disruptive technologies into your company?
Yeah, well, we're kind of dealing with two dynamics. The industry is just rapidly evolving as well. The intermodal industry is kind of in itself is always trying to become more efficient, which causes changes in your operations, which then causes changes in your technology and how you approach that. One example of that, a very recent example of that, is we have many facilities around the country that are going from what we call wheeled operations, where they're pulling the freight off of a vessel or off of a train and putting it immediately on chassis on a set of wheels. Well, now a lot of operations are going grounded, meaning the carrier, the motor carrier, has to come in with a bare chassis to be able to, and then they have to wait in line to be able to, get that container loaded. Which is causing some challenges as far as, well, now an appointment time becomes very critical, right? So that if you can tell them I'm going to be here at this time, they will have maybe groomed the stack, is what they call it, and have that container closer and readily available to load onto the chassis when you come in. We're seeing that a lot on the West Coast right now, and we're beginning to see that here in the interior United States, even in Memphis as an example. As far as the technology goes, certainly cloud is making motor carriers more efficient in that the more you migrate to the cloud, the more that you can be willing to or able to flex up and flex down based on your capacity needs, your compute capacity needs. IMC has been in a transition for the last 5 years to be able to, we've moved from having our own data centers 5 years ago. We now have we're hosted, but we're moving now from just even being hosted even to the public cloud.
Okay.
And so we're like many other transportation companies, I'm sure, that are doing the same thing. But what it does is it allows you to be able to buy that compute capacity, that storage capacity as you need it, not way in advance of when you're going to consume it. It also helps with some of the resources it takes to run that type of an environment. As far as some other technology that IMC is working on some blockchain initiatives with certain partners in our space. That has a lot of promise, and what that's going to do is we're seeing more and more of a trend where customers, being shippers or consignees, really anyone in that supply chain, if they're participating in a blockchain, and this is the vision, right? This I think various groups are in different phases of their blockchain development, but the vision is that if you're participating in a blockchain, now you have end-to-end visibility and you can run even more efficiently so that you know when that container is available for pickup. You know when it's empty and can be returned. And people can be paid automatically based on arrivals, departures, making it even more efficient where right now in the intermodal industry, there's a lot of paper being exchanged. That could be electronic paper too, but still, you're having to prove that you did what you said you were going to do, Whereas in the blockchain with smart contracts, that'll become much more efficient and just seamless as that will happen. Another big thing that I think people are talking about in the industry is artificial intelligence or machine learning. I think certainly there are many small use cases for that type of effort. How can I take something where I've got a manually repetitive process that I can automate and help take that off of my resources so that my human resources can spend more of their time on exceptions rather than the norm. Yeah. Now, we would be remiss if we didn't, since we're talking about technology and transportation, and not talking about autonomous vehicles, right? Yeah. So everybody wants to talk about autonomous vehicles. At IMC Companies, certainly we're paying attention to that. I think that there's a long way to go before that becomes sort of mainstream. Before we'll see maybe an autonomous vehicle running back and forth, or vehicles running back and forth between here and Nashville on I-40 or something like that. I think that's probably 15, 20 years down the road. But what we are seeing right now is we're seeing a bump in all the safety technology that's being built into the new tractors that we're buying like right now. Our fleet, as we continue to modernize our fleet and buy increments of new tractors year over year, those tractors are coming with all kinds of collision avoidance capabilities. We're seeing certainly a decline in our accident rates and things like that because of that technology that was developed as part of the autonomous vehicle innovation.
So how do you see IoT playing a big role in your
Well, IoT's already made a big impact in the transportation industry as a whole, but in the intermodal space, I mean, certainly we're seeing, our chassis as an example, chassis that many of the chassis providers are starting to put, IoT devices on there so that they can track their equipment. Refrigerated containers have IoT devices in them to tell them when the fuel for the refrigeration is running low, that kind of thing.
The health of
the health of the freight, type of thing.
Lastly, I just wanted to ask you about what do you see as an upside of working with consultants and other service providers, because every company doesn't have all the skill sets, especially the fast-paced technology changes today.
That's exactly right. I mean, so IMC Companies is a mid-sized enterprise. We're a family of trucking companies, crossing the U.S. We're in pretty much every region in the U.S. And with a mid-sized IT shop, we can't do it all. And that's why you have to have partners. And at IMC, we don't claim to have all the good ideas. We'd like to think that we do sometimes, but we don't. And so by reaching out to partners and using, contractors to augment your staff, partners where you're buying a solution, or an integrator to help you integrate a solution, or even offshore help, you're bringing in different perspectives, different ideas, things that your staff maybe hadn't thought of.
A lot of collaboration.
Yeah. And so that's how we think of it. 5 years in as a CIO of IMC Companies, we've made it a kind of a point to do that. We want to be a partner and not just do everything ourselves. And we've gained value from that. Those kinds of things we would not have been able to do by ourselves unless we had a partner to help us do that.
So and also so at the end of the day, the customer service and the user experience is what you're trying to achieve through technology.
Absolutely. It's not only helping our customers, but helping our drivers. We want to improve the in-cab experience of our drivers.
Yeah.
And what a great way to do that. The more we can improve their in-cab experience, the better day they're going to have, the less stressed they're going to be, and they're going to be a longer time employee for IMC companies if they do that.
So thank you so much for your time. I think this insights is definitely going to help other people that are doing in your same industry, and also because now is everybody's learning from other
Yeah.
industries, right? It's not the same
Right.
industries. So I thank you for your time, and I thank the Digital Current.